Uh,
I'm so sorry, Christy. I should have said the meeting will be recorded for anybody who wants to
oh,
take their cameras off as well. The meeting is being
oh,
recorded. Go ahead.
all right. So, childhood was normal, average family, dad, mom, just a normal childhood, nothing extra, you
Okay.
know. Secondary school, boarding school, far away in Port Harcourt, but it was fun. And I just had a regular childhood, just a happy child. I enjoyed, I enjoyed fooling around and I enjoyed making friends, just hanging out, just normal.
No more. So let me ask you a question.
Like,
What was your impression of love? How did growing up
my
as
impression
a teenager?
of love, then all those, though I was not so much of a fan of Mills and
Mhm.
Booms, but I read some of them. So we always, like every young girl's dream, the impression of one Prince Charming will come your way and, just sweep you off your feet. And then I had this dream of wanting to get married early. So it was one of the things I desired.
Mm.
I wanted to finish school quickly and get married on time. But unfortunately, jam kept jamming me. So I didn't get into the higher institution on time. I think it took me like about 3 years thereabout before I was able to get into Yaba College of Technology. But, that was just the impression I had. A very, like Prince Charming, caring, loving, cute guy, tall, handsome, those kind of
Yep. Sweeping you off your
teenage
feet, you know. Okay.
parents,
And would you say you were
soft
confident?
spoken.
Were you confident growing up? Did you have a lot of self-esteem growing up? Would you say?
I was not. I was not very, I didn't have a lot of, self-esteem because growing up, my parents separated, I think when I was in secondary school or just about when I finished secondary school. So it kind of affected me. It wasn't something I was happy about, you know. So I didn't have a lot of self-esteem. I wasn't confident with myself.
Mm.
I was shy. I'm not a shy person, but I used to act like I was shy because I didn't have a lot of self-esteem. So I was kind of timid. Let
Yeah.
me put it that way.
Yeah.
If I come to a place and I'm not used to you think I'm one quiet child and I'm not quiet.
Mm-hmm.
Because of my self-esteem issues, I used to like always keep it to myself.
Yeah.
And then I never felt I was like beautiful. So the first time, and I went to a girls' secondary school, so I didn't really like have so many boys around me as a teenager. But the first time a guy told me, you're very pretty, I like you. I think I was in JS3. And I had a good laugh. And I laughed and laughed. And I was like, really? Me? You like me? I'm fine. I beg, I didn't take him serious. So for a long time, I grew up believing, I'm not fine. If you want to see fineness, check out my immediate elder sister. She's a beauty. So I always used to like, she's the one that is fine in my house. Fine. I never really believed it. I didn't really believe in myself so much.
Mm.
One
Great.
thing, it
So,
was
yeah.
become an adult. Oh, yeah.
I mean, you could have been describing me there, the way you're describing yourself. I too had very low self-esteem issues, even though on the outside I came across as extremely confident, but that was not the case. So roll on, Christy. So when did you meet was he your boyfriend or your husband, or did he graduate from boyfriend to husband? Did you date him?
I actually met him when I was about, I think, 19.
Okay.
I wasn't yet 18 or 19 because, okay, when I finished secondary school, like I said, jam was jamming me. So I kept having to take jam all over. That was another thing that now affected me too. That this girl, when it was as if I knew book, but it was now as if I did not know book again. So the thing was like, but I said instead of just sitting down at home, I got like a holiday job. Like I was like a receptionist for a lawyer who was into real estate. So I was like his receptionist.
Yeah.
So that day, it was not far from the house. I was going home for lunch during break. Most of the time I go home. I was going home and I met him. And I remember then I used to like to wear short skirts a lot. I don't really like long things. So I was wearing a short skirt. I still remember what I was wearing. And he came up to me. He was like, "Hi, I just wanted to tell you that you have nice legs. I was like, really? Okay, thank you, and that was how we met. And along the line, but we were still friendly. He was like, you live around here? I said, yes. So once in a while, he had a friend that lived around there. So once in a while, he would come to check up. Then he was doing his, I think IT or so. He was an architect. I think he was doing his master's or something. He was doing like an internship with someone, another architect.
Yeah.
So after that, he now went outside Lagos for youth service. But anytime he's in Lagos, he always used to come check up on me. But we were just friends, but nothing serious.
Okay.
I was seeing somebody else then, but I just noticed he was always there. I went ahead to have 2 other relationships in between the time I met him, and they didn't. The first one, the person, he relocated abroad. Then he was doing visa lottery, and we lost contact. There was no mobile phones then. And the second one, he didn't just work out. But along the line, he was always there. And he always told me he liked me. So over the years, we just had that friendship. And I felt, oh, this guy is not a bad-looking guy. He's always coming to check up on me. He gives me, like he's kind of the people I felt that, okay, these people I wanted a relationship, something serious. But he was always a constant, and he always made me know that, how he felt about me. And so by this time, I had gotten into the University of Lagos, and after youth service, he continued to live in Port Harcourt. He just remained there. Then he came to see me that day and told me his intentions. I've known you for a while. I really like you. In fact, I want us to get serious now. And in fact, I want to settle down. His marriage. So he said it that day. He said that was one of the reasons why he came to Lagos to tell me. And I laughed. I was like, the question he asked me was like, are you in a relationship? I said, no, I'm not in a relationship now. It's just me. And when he now said it, I just, normally when something I don't know what to say, I normally laugh.
Yeah.
I laughed. I was like, really?
Mm-hmm.
I said, really, I've heard. So I said he was going back the next day. I said, no problem. Bye-bye. I've heard. So shortly, a month after, he came back again. It was like, I'm serious. I'm really, really serious. I said, okay, let's see how it goes. So that was how we now officially
started courting.
Yes, seriously. And about a year later, we now got married.
Okay, before you go into the marriage, so during the year that you dated him, were there any, looking back now, because when you're in the scenario, you don't really see the red flags. Were there any red flags that you look back on now that you say, oh, wow, this guy was, he was always prone to violence from the onset, but I was too naive to understand?
Yes, there were red flags because I realized that he was very, very possessive and very controlling. And he got angry easily. I noticed that. And the kind of person, like I said, I'm a very, I like to have fun, like to hang out. I had a lot of friends. And then having 3 older sisters, we had a lot of friends. And the way we're very close to my family. Some of my friends now were my older sister's friends. Like one person can be had a lot of friends. And where a lot of women are, there'll be guys. Yeah. We had a lot of male friends and all that. But I noticed he was always like, too many guys. And he'll be asking, did you date this one? Did you have it? I'm like, is it every guy that is my friend that I will date? No, he's just a friend, but I noticed he didn't like all those kind of things. And I remember one time when I went to visit him in Port Harcourt, and I bumped into a classmate of mine. I bumped into her older brother. So I saw him and I went to meet him and I was like, hi, I'm so person's. I remembered him, but he didn't remember me. I'd met him before. I'm so person's sister, friend. You are the other brother. He kind of like, wow, really, So he was kind of excited that, oh, his younger sister's friend, and I recognized him. And when we left there, oh God, he was angry. He was like, why did I do that? Why did I go talk to the guy? It's like, he's just a harmless.
I think she's frozen. Okay.
It's frozen.
Yeah.
I'm sure she'll come back on.
Wow. So there were a lot of actually, while we're waiting for her to come back, there were a lot of similarities there for that's now, you know, when I look back, they were there in my relationship as well. The lack of self-esteem, the control is always a big red flag. And being so young when you marry, you kind of misconstrue that control to love. You kind of think he cares, but there's a borderline between caring and, oh, if she's dropped off, so I'm hoping she'll come back soon.
Sure she will.
Yeah, she'll come back. Laura, I don't know if you've got any comments to say on that, on what she said.
I do, and I was keenly listening to Christy, and she's back. Perhaps just allow her continue.
Hi, Christy, go on.
Okay. You. So like I said I had to like destroy the address book. So there were so many issues like that. I just noticed he used to get angry easily. He was very controlled.
Okay. And then you went on to get married, like many of us. You did marry him.
Yes, and I felt it was something that could, like, when he said, you know, so many guys, like, okay, it's just an address book. I thought it was like, okay, you know, so many guys, and I started cutting away from a lot of people that were my friends. Not like I had anything to do with them. We didn't date or anything, but because they were guys, cut away from them. Later on, it even extended to some of my female friends, but I stood my ground on that concerning some of my female friends. And later in years, those friends were part of the people that have helped me through the, you know, the dark times. I stood my ground. Some of these people, I've known them since when I was a baby. The kids grew up together. They can't influence me. They didn't influence me before I met you. I don't think they can influence me. But the male friends, I cut away from so many of them, like cut off from them. Church, school, I wasn't keeping in touch just for peace to reign. But I went ahead, I got married to him, you know, like thinking that, okay, if I can just stay away from these people, there'll be peace. Like, if I get to just not upset him, he won't get angry. I actually always felt okay, we can get married and
everything will work out well.
Yes, so that's how we got married. Before we were actually planning, you know, like then he was even like, I was actually trying to do a transfer from Unilag to University of Port Harcourt. And along the line, I now got pregnant. So we were like, okay, it's already pregnant and we're already planning to get married. So let's just push the wedding. No need to wait later. Let's just do it. And I remember my mom telling me, this guy, I don't feel this guy. You don't have to bring the child. I'll look after the child. Go back to school. Finish. When you finish your university education, then you can come back and decide to marry this guy. But, you know, I didn't listen to my mom. I felt she was just being tribalistic because it's Yoruba, Rivers. I was like, Mommy, no, I want to do it now. Like, okay, you want to do it now, but I know she wasn't happy. You know, like, she had her fears.
Yeah.
And later on, you know, all she feared, you know, that it started happening.
Okay. So so
your voice is breaking.
Am I breaking?
No, you're not. I can hear you very well.
Okay, great. So you got married, and then what happened?
Like I said, I was already pregnant. We got married, and he was still living in Port Harcourt. I moved to Port Harcourt with him. Luckily, there was ASU strike.
Okay.
So I was able to, like, okay, she said better with headphones. Okay, let me see if I can get headphones. Somebody is saying that I'm breaking.
Yes, you are breaking.
Let me see if I can get headphones.
Okay. Please, if you have any questions for her, you're very welcome to put the questions in the chat box. Okay, I'm just seeing the messages now. Better with headphones, okay. Which is what I'm doing as well. Wow. You know, when you hear about any domestic violence survivor, the pattern is always the same. It's just a different victim is what I say, but the experience is always the same. I'm listening. Okay. Better with headphones. Speaker is okay. I mean, listening is better.
Okay. Hello.
Okay. Hi.
Hello. Can we hear me very well now?
Yes. Yes, we can.
Okay.
So, Christy, let me ask you a question. So all along,
Yeah.
up until when you got pregnant, he had showed signs of anger, but had he actually done anything abusive?
Yes, once he had.
Before the marriage?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, he had one time.
Okay.
And
what was
we had an argument, and then he slapped me, and I was like, wow. And I was, you know, I went to see him then in Port Harcourt, and then his sister was there, and I was like, man, I'm leaving, I'm done. So this is.
I think it's the internet at her end because she's frozen again.
Maybe she should put off her camera. I hear sometimes when you put off your camera. Does that help?
Yes, it helps when you put out your camera.
It happens. But this is one part I think maybe this is even the first time I'm really sharing this part. You know, like I just always say I noticed the signs, but I never really talked about him this slap. But I remember there was one time, and I already ended it. But you know, when the sister was there, beg, you know, they would talk, give it a chance. People make mistakes.
And did you keep that from your family? Did you tell your sisters? Because you said you had.
Yeah, no, I didn't tell them. I didn't tell them. I kept it away.
Okay.
I just had this notion that if I didn't provoke him, he wouldn't have gotten to that point.
So then you got married. You had your baby.
Yes.
And then what happened?
Yes. And when we got married, you know, I was already pregnant in Port Harcourt, alone, you know, but I noticed we used to have, you know, like sometimes you come back from work, what have you been doing all day? You've just been sleeping, you're so lazy, you know, stuff like that. And, you know, I used to hear when women are pregnant, their husbands used to pet them. Yeah, I did not see any petting, no. They used to tell me I'm lazy. But I say, I feel like it is up to you. Say, don't I know the road to the market? Go and buy it by yourself. So I not see all those petting. So that's how, you know, and I had the baby. So
I think it's the internet. Hello. Oh dear.
From River State. So my aunt, when she came in that day, you know, of course, she now took over taking care of the baby and everything. But she noticed that I was not happy. So she kept asking, what's wrong? What's the problem? I tell her, Mommy, nothing. She's a mother now. She knows all these things. I say, Mommy, nothing. For me, I wasn't happy because, you know, any little thing, you shout, you complain, you say, you're not doing it well. You know, like always criticizing.
Yeah.
Always criticizing. So it was really getting to me, but I was just bottling up everything. So that particular day, we had a misunderstanding. You know, then my son was barely a month old because my mom was still around. We had a misunderstanding, and he now got angry and went into the room. And I remember the first incident that happened. We went for circumcision. We went to circumcise my son, me, him, my mom. So when we were going to the hospital, there was something he said I should show the doctor. So I forgot to take it, some medication that, you know, like other moms that were not first-time moms. They're like, hey, give him this multivitamin, give him this. So my mom had bought one or two. So he was now insisting that, no. you must show the doctor before giving it to him. So I said, okay, I'll take it to the hospital and ask the doctor. So on our way, he now asked me, did I carry it? I said, no, I forgot. And he got angry. He cannot do any little thing, was angry. So he just dropped us at the hospital and left. We found our way back home. And he came back very late, was angry, stormed into the room. My mom was even worried. My mom was like, what's wrong? Did something happen along the way? Did he, what happened? And I went into the room and he didn't want to talk to me. So my mom was like, what's wrong with your husband? His son went for, he didn't even ask how was the circumcision, how is the baby? So my mom was just wondering, what kind of, I just covered up for him. But of course, this was like 2 days after she came. She came on a Saturday. We went for the circumcision on a Monday. So she already sensed some things. And, so many other incidences like that. So when he was about almost a month, maybe it was like 3 weeks or so. And that was when that day we had that incident. And I went into the room to meet him. And I noticed that he had locked the door. So I wanted to do something. I don't know what I wanted to do in the room. I can't remember. I noticed he had locked the door. And I was now knocking on the door. Of course, I was angry. Like, why are you locking the door? Open the door, please. I want to get in. And the next thing, as he opened the door, it was slaps and blows and kicks. And, I was in shock. And my mom was there. My mom was shouting. Wow. Yes, my mom was still there. My mom was shouting. My mom tried to hold him. He pushed her away. It was terrible. Wow. And I was crying. My mom was angry. And then after everything, he now called my father and told my father that my father should tell my mom to leave, as she's the one causing problems in his home. She's influencing me negatively. Wow. So I called his parents. I told his parents what had happened. I went to the church. I just started going to that church, but there was one minister that was close to that lived around my, the same axis. I went to her house. I was battered and bruised looking. Immediately she saw me, she was like, what happened? So I now told her, so she came with her husband. They talked, they intervened. My mom was like, no. My daughter is leaving. My mom was like, this is the end. Like, this is too much. A woman that just gave birth, baby is not strong, But at the end of the day, my dad was in Lagos. His parents are in Lagos too. So my dad and my uncle in Lagos went to see his parents. So those ones were now apologizing on his behalf and all that. And of course, church now say, don't leave, forgive, beg, all this kind of, we shall have made up. And I did not leave. So when school now resumed, I went back to Lagos with my baby. And then shortly after, I think like a year after or so, he relocated. We now relocated back to Lagos. Okay. So we're now living in Lagos. But that was the first incident of,
of abuse.
Battering. Yes.
And so you relocated, so now you're together. And
yes, now we're together.
My experience, the abuse then becomes more often.
Yes, and then now I'm still in school, and then we relocated close to when I was about to graduate. Okay. And when I was about to graduate, that was my final year. I was pregnant for my second child, and what I noticed is that it's not we didn't have like every day he was hitting me and all that. There was a lot of verbal, like criticizing, talking down on. There was a lot of that. Okay. But the physical was not like very like rampant. After that first incident, I think the next time it happened again, we had moved to Lagos then. And I know that time we had an incident, something about his mom, and he came home that I think I used to drop my son with her when I go to school. And she came and said, I didn't drop food for him. I was like, no, I did, And I was even coming back. I bought more on the way back. So he was angry. I don't know what happened. We now had like an argument over it, and he hit me then, just slapped me. And I was like, but.
So yours was verbal and mental. Was it?
Yes, and then there was the financial too, because when I finished school, he didn't want me to work. Told me, even youth service, he didn't want me to. He was like, I should. Youth service, he was like, you know, you're married, go and submit your marriage certificate. If they post you outside Lagos, you're not going to serve. But luckily, I submitted the certificate. I remained in Lagos. And he now said, no, go and collect letter from, I'll get you a letterhead from his father's company. I should just go and submit that letter that I have a place of primary assignment. I said no. And I said, let NYSC post me. But sadly, where NYSC posted me to, they rejected me. They said they didn't want a woman. They wanted a man. And they wanted engineers. That because it was an engineering firm, that they didn't have any space for me. So I now went back because I was like, okay, where do I start from? And it was already causing quarrel in the house. I now took the letter, and that was how youth service, I was not doing anything. It's only day of CD, I'll go for my CD day. End of the month, I will submit letter from the, so that was it. Like he doesn't want me to work. I should stay at home because of the children. Now I had 2 children. Stay at home because of the children, the no living nanny, just somebody that will come in, help me to clean and all that and go. He doesn't want living.
Total control.
You said?
Total control over you.
Yes. So I was just at home. I wasn't doing anything. And
okay,
another incident.
Yes, go on.
When I now had my daughter, when I gave birth to her, she had a defect on her leg. So they had to put a cast on that leg. So after, I think I was supposed to go to the hospital for a review. And that day, somehow, I was like, you're supposed to take... Now, my mom was around again. After that first incident, my mom said she was not going to come. But when I now had the second child and I had this defect on the leg, I was finding it hard to cope. I needed help. His own mom was not willing to help. She would come every day. She wouldn't do anything. I was practically the one. It was my church. I remember the church I was now attending. They were the ones that was coming to help me. The pastor's wife and the head of the women, they were coming to help me bathe the baby. They were just helping me. Then my friend, and I had one girl that used to come and clean. She used to come, Then my very good friend, she used to always come to help me. They were the ones. So I was like, after like 2 weeks, I begged my mom. I said, please, I need help. You need to help me. And now there's an older child. So reluctantly, she came.
Yeah.
She's like, I don't want what happened again. And unfortunately, it happened again.
Wow.
But this time around, she wasn't even in the house. She had gone to the market with one of my sisters. And she came back and met me in my neighbor's house with the 2 children. Like we had an incident. I was supposed to take the child to the hospital to see the specialist to review. And by the time I got to the hospital, it was late because he did not agree to take me. Then I didn't know how to drive very well. So there's this mechanic that's at times I used to call to drive me. So in the morning, I expected that it's our child. 2 of us to go to the hospital together. And he just told me, I'm not going with you. Call the mechanic. By the time I called the mechanic came. I know then no Uber or Bolt then. The mechanic came. We got to the hospital. The specialist had gone. So when I got back home, I told him, so he was angry. I told him, if you had come along with me, we wouldn't have had this situation. And the next thing, slap. I slapped him back this time around. And, he of course started hitting me. And then, so I ran out of the house. I grabbed my baby. I ran out. So I was running out. I remember that my 2-year-old son was still there. I ran back, grabbed my 2-year-old son and ran out of the house. And then my neighbors heard the squabble. And they came out, what's happening? So my neighbor's husband held him, and she took me in. So I was there from like afternoon. I called his father. The father said he was at a wedding. He would call him. I didn't call my mom. I didn't call my dad. I didn't call any of them. So my mom came back in the night, and I was still in my neighbor's house. He locked the door and went out. So when my mom came back with my sister, I now told them, I'm here. Immediately I heard them knocking the door to get him, and I said, I'm here. Like, what are you doing here? What happened to you? I said it, and my mom was like, she was livid, angry. My sister was angry. So she said, let's go home. I said, no. They said I should not be going to my parents. I should go to my in-laws' house. The in-laws stay not far. So I went to his parents' place. And the father said, I had told him in the afternoon. He had been calling his son. His son was not picking. So of course, my mom stormed in with him and said, look at what your son has done to my daughter. This is another one again. She was very angry, very, very angry, and instead of them, okay, the father, in fairness, was trying to like calm the situation, but his mom and his sisters were not like, maybe they told me not to go and be reporting to my family. Why did I go and report to my family? And I was like, my mom is around. She came back and saw me in this state, so I was angry. Initially, I was telling my mom that I will stay there till he comes back. Shebi is my in-laws, so I'd rather stay there. So, but the way the hostile environment, you know, it was only the father that was like, everybody should calm down. You know, they were kind of defending their brother. I just followed my mom and went home. So when I went home, this pastor's wife that said was helping me with my baby, I told her about it. She was a very understanding woman. She and her husband, they came, you know, begged my father. She was kneeling down. Her husband was prostrating. They were begging on his behalf.
Yeah.
So after maybe a day or two, you know, make peace, church. I went back again. And we continued in the marriage.
Because research will show you that a victim will try 7 attempts to leave before they actually leave, if they do indeed.
Yes.
So I want to roll on now because of time. So what made you decide to finally leave?
Okay.
What was the decision?
So this was now 13 years after. I was there for 13 years. I had 4 children. People were like, how come? How could you have still been allowing such a man? You were still, you know, getting pregnant and all that. And I tell them, I said, the thing is, number one, you never want to accept that it's that bad. And then you try everything possible to make sure that these things work out. You try everything possible. And for me, my children are a blessing. I'm so glad I have them. But I'm the kind of person that, you know, some of all these family planning methods, they work for me. Like the 3rd and 4th child were totally unplanned. They were failed, you know, like failed attempts of, you know, family planning that didn't work.
Yeah.
And it came, which I do not regret.
Of course.
But this was 13 years after, and it wasn't changing. You understand? We're like going around in circles. It's just like today there's peace, tomorrow is another situation. Today there's peace, you know, the verbal, financial, emotional. He didn't want me to work. Later, when I insisted, I said, okay, you will work, but he gave me stiff conditions. You know, he just gave me some conditions that I know I cannot meet. You're working, you must, the same time, you must be the one to pick the children from school. You must be at home before so time. And I'm like, of course, this cannot work, you know. And some attempts of going for interview.
Again. Okay, so I'm going to read the comments. Real controller, yep. Typical narcissistic personality, very true. From Nwanemo, it's always about control. Yep, that's true. The scary thing is the gaslighting, correct? When they make you feel. And then the one question people should stop asking is, why didn't you leave? Totally, I agree to that. And that's the question everybody asks. It's not that easy to leave. Okay, when Christy comes back, we're going to try and round up her share. And then, Laura, I would like you to then come in. I have so many questions to ask you about. And one thing she did mention, we've lost altogether, was the children. She said she had 4 children who obviously witnessed all the abuse. And so when, as a mother, you feel that you're not the only victim in the relationship, you know, the abuse will have an impact on the child, I'm assuming, Laura, mentally, physically?
Correct.
So when I hear people say they stay for the children, you know, we also have to remember that the children are also victims as well. You know, they're witnessing this. Okay, we seem to have lost Laura, but we'll give her a few minutes to come back.
No, I'm here.
Not Laura, Christy. I'm so sorry.
No, it's Christy that
yes, it's lost Christy.
We're waiting for to come back.
You know, but there was a lot of similarities. You know, the control is a big one. The gaslighting, when they make you feel that you are the cause of the problem and not them. The financial control is a good one. You know, they tell you to stop in your career. They don't give you money. That's very common in a lot of abusive scenarios. Okay, she's back.
She's back.
Hi, Christy.
So I'm back. I don't know what happened to. I had to change device.
No problem.
So yes.
So, like I said, so this was like another, like then I got back after I went back the second time.
Mm-hmm.
But I noticed that, I had a job, but sadly, like 2 months after I went back, I lost the job.
Mm-hmm.
And till tomorrow, my mom feels he has a hand in that's my job loss. They just woke up one day and said they didn't need me and all that. Because he didn't want the job. He wasn't happy about it.
Mm-hmm.
But because he was really begging me to come back, he just reluctantly agreed to that. Okay. Meanwhile, along the line, I had heard about, I think somewhere I saw the word narcissism.
Mm-hmm.
So I now started reading, because I'm somebody like, when I see a new word, I like to read up, go to the dictionary, know about it. So I now read about it. Mm. And the more I read about it, the more I realized that I know somebody with these characteristics and I'm living with him. Mm. This is strange, Mm. So the first time I read about it, I did not, I think then I'd gone back. Mm. I'd gone back the second time. Mm-hmm. I didn't sleep that night. I think he was not in town. So I read and read and read and read and read. I was like, my goodness. So it was like scales just fell off my eyes. It was like, mm-hmm. Wow. And I just knew that he was never going to change. Mm. And I was going to continue to be there. And maybe one day I was just going to end up dying, Mm. So I just made up my mind that I was going to leave. And of course, the second time I went back, mm-hmm. he had promised he was not going to hit me, blah, blah, blah. But of course, he still did. The verbal abuse was still there. He still did. Mm. So when he apologized, of course, I couldn't tell anybody. I was ashamed because my family, everybody had told me not to go back. And I went back.
Yeah.
Behind their back, my mom and my sister, they traveled. They were not in the country. And I just snuck because I was staying with my sister. Mm. And I felt my dad, I could easily talk to him, mm-hmm. And I just snuck and went back. My mom was very angry. So when this time around, I didn't tell anybody what had happened, but they knew, mm-hmm. A friend of mine, like my very close friend, she knew because she saw me the next day, she knew. And she told them,
okay.
But I denied it. Mm-hmm. Well, I didn't leave immediately, but I had made up my mind I was going to leave.
Okay,
and I told him,
mm-hmm.
so he begged. Mm-hmm. He said, let's go for therapy. We started therapy. Therapy did not work. Mm-hmm. We didn't finish it.
Yeah.
After like a month, he stopped. He said he wasn't interested.
Mm-hmm.
So I started planning my escape.
Okay.
I started planning how I was going to leave. Mm-hmm. You understand? Mm-hmm. And I was praying every day. Mm-hmm. I was planning, plotting.
And praying.
This was in October. Mm-hmm. Yes, I was praying. It was my prayer point every night. Mm-hmm. God, make a way of escape for me. Mm-hmm. This was October. I was finally able to leave March the following year. Wow. Just a few days to Easter.
Okay.
December, I wanted to leave, but my liver failed me. Because I wanted to leave when he would not know.
Yeah.
So
I was
finally able to leave him.
So you left the matrimonial home, and where did you go?
Yes. I came to my father.
You came to your parents?
My parents is in Lagos, yes. My parents are in Lagos. Sorry. I came to my parents, yes.
And I'm sure he tried to beg you to come back?
This time around, he did not.
He didn't? Okay. Maybe he knew.
Yes.
And so then what was
because this time around,
mm-hmm.
I did not leave immediately after a quarrel or a fight.
Yeah.
He believed that I had forgiven him. Everything was fine. We were talking. Even when I was packing, he called me on the phone that day. I behaved normal. But he just came back and found out that I had gone with the kids and all my things had moved on among my things. So he just called me and said, what's the meaning of all this? And I said, I need a break. He now said, is that why you packed all your things? I said, yes. He said, so when do you think you will come back? I said, I don't know. And that was the conversation and that was the end. And immediately I spoke to a lawyer. I'd already reached out to a lawyer and they sent him a letter, for child welfare and the judicial separation.
Fantastic. Wow.
So he didn't beg.
He didn't beg. And
yes.
My question, what has life been like? What was it like, since you made that decision? Because with 4 children, I know how it was with 1.
Yes. So that, like I said, I spoke to a lawyer. Previously, the second time I went back, I had reached out to an NGO and they gave me a lawyer. So this time around, I went to him. So he said the best thing is for me to file for a judicial separation and child welfare. So we now went to court for him to be responsible for the children's upkeep and all that. For like about almost a year, they were with me. But along the line, the judge felt it was better they go to stay with their father. So right now, they stay with him, but during the weekends and holidays, they come to me. Like this weekend now, they are with me. So like we have like a shared custody.
Yeah.
Yes. He insisted, he wanted the children, and he was making it difficult. Like when they say bring this amount, you say he doesn't have, he was just making it difficult for me. He didn't want me to change children's school to somewhere closer. So journeying down there, and then I wasn't well. When I left the marriage, I did not know. I had suffered a mild stroke, which I don't know what the cause it was, which till now, my nerves are even affected. I even have a doctor's appointment to go to. It still bothers me. The nerves on my left side were affected due to the stroke. I don't know what caused it.
Wow.
And so I was really, really down health-wise then. So the judge was like, you don't have a job, you don't have, like so many things. So she was like, let the children stay with their father since he's ready to take care of them financially. And then you now, they come. So that's how it has been for like 5 years. We've been separated now for 5 years. So that's how it has been. And along the way, I started, rediscovering myself. I was able to get a job. Like I started with doing business.
Yeah.
And I saved some money. Some of my friends from secondary school, some groups that I'm in, they supported me financially, emotionally. So I was able to like start up a business. I used to sell clothes and shoes. And before then, I had learned how to sew. So I was just trying to do all that. But I now later got a job, which I still presently have. And I've been trying to like rediscover myself, to heal, anywhere that I see that, okay, I can go for any form of therapy, I go into it, So along the line, I now found out about emotional intelligence. I went for the certification. So it was, for me, it was like, going for that certification was like a journey of healing and then an opportunity to be able to help other people that have gone through this kind of thing, because I knew that I didn't go through this thing for going through its sake. There was a purpose behind it. And years ago, then I was still in the marriage, I had a dream twice where, like, God was showing me. I still have the book where I wrote it down, the dream. Then when I dream, I used to write it down. And, like, you're going to be reaching out to hurting women. That was the exact word. Hurting women. I did not understand then because I was married then. Even then, I tried to start a fellowship then. But of course, he abused me now. What do you know? You want to start fellowship? Useless woman. Those kind of things. Of course, it didn't work. If I catch any woman here, but years later, I think when I was packing my things, I now saw the book. And now remembered. It came back. So going for the emotional intelligence, it helped me. After that time, I've improved on myself. I look books, videos to try and heal. And then I use my story to share with other people, to let them know that, don't think that no matter how bad it is, there's always light at the end of the tunnel. Yes.
Absolutely.
So that's been my journey so far. And it has been awesome. It has been amazing, And I think the only thing that was a major challenge, of course, there are ups and downs, but the major challenge for me was my children not staying with me. It was a lot for me, but I was able to pull through. And the week they left was the same week because I was able to pay for a shop where I was, selling my goods.
Yeah.
And the Lagos State local government destroyed that shop that week. So it was like back to back. I think I was depressed for a while over it because I my children, my business, I felt empty. I felt lost. But later, I now got the job, and then somehow we're coping. I see them weekends. I call them all the time. It's now easier.
Yeah.
Before every weekend, when they're going back, I'm crying, they're crying, especially my last child, because she was still young. She was about 5 or 6. So it was a lot for her, but we're coping now. And I had to sit down and talk to them and explain to them, I don't hate your father. It's not like I don't want to, but because they saw the abuse.
Yeah.
I said, I don't want you guys to keep seeing this. And there was like on 2 occasions, the children almost got hurt. There was one time as he pushed me, I fell on my daughter. She was like 3 then. And then there was another time, the last one, when he was hitting me, my first 2 children, they were trying to hold him because they were teenagers now. They're trying to hold him and he pushed them. Yeah. And I told them, do you want to get hurt? Do you want your mom to be hurt? Or do you want your dad to be hurt? If one person dies, the other person will go to jail. Then what will happen to you people? So I had to really sit down and talk to them and explain to them. And I said, I don't hate you. I don't hate your dad. I don't want, I would like us to be together, but this is the safest way for us to live peacefully. So, and that's how we've been coping over the years.
Thank you so much, Christy. That was an awesome share that you said. And the fact that you're here to share it with us shows that, you're recovering. A lot of narratives. I have some questions for you from some of the guests, but we won't go to questions now. We'll go to Laura, who is the counselor for today. We want to talk about, because you spoke about depression, you spoke about healing. So Laura, what kind of healing is available for people who, because obviously this is trauma, if I'm correct? And I also had to look for some sort of healing as well when I came out of my own relationship. So what sort of healing would you, or counseling would you advise anybody that's been or experiencing abuse to go through or to go for?
Thank you very much, Joyce, for inviting me. And Christy, God bless you for the strength to share your story.
Thank you.
Joyce, I hope you don't mind if I do a little wind back. There are over 50 women on this platform right now.
Wow.
And I am honored to be here with you. And one thing I keep saying is you are a channel through which help can come to another woman. So if you're here, if you're listening on this platform, and if everything is beautiful for you, I know you know somebody, either in your extended family or in your workplace or, religious institution, somebody who needs help in this regard, talking about domestic violence. There is somebody. Your question is really wide, Joyce, when you say what kind of healing might we be looking at, because it's not one size fits all. There are different types of abuse. You have financial, I see people popping questions on financial abuse, you have sexual abuse, you have spiritual abuse, I would say that, cultural abuse, emotional, psychological, all forms of abuse.
Yeah.
There's so many things running through my mind, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
But to the people listening to us on this platform, let me tell you a little bit about myself. Perhaps it may help somebody out there, and you, especially Christy. You see, when I got married in 2002, in 1919. Oops, I'm getting older. I can't even remember the date. And coincidentally, this month of June makes it 21 years that I got married. And it also makes it 19 years that I have been divorced. Okay? And what I went through was a process of healing. I call it the journey of healing, because I hear you. And I think when I begin to talk, Christy, you'll be able to get some cues in terms of the types of healing that you would need. Because I hear a lot that borders on your story that you shared with us. I hear the psychological aspect. I hear the financial aspect. I hear somebody, I can hear background, a child. It borders on so many things. And my 3 years of marriage was more psychological.
Sorry, Laura. Unmute yourself.
Dear, sorry. Okay, I'm not sure where I went off, but what I said was that the 3 years that I got married, it was more emotional and psychological because I couldn't have a child. It wasn't all that, physical. I remember when the first thing that hit me were two statements. One that came from him when he said, oh, that was in 2000. He said, I don't like taking you out, Laura, because I'm ashamed of you because you're not pregnant. So he worked in an oil company. So, and they used to have lots of events. So I loved going to those events, but then he stopped taking me because I was, according to him, ashamed because I wasn't pregnant. And that thing jolted through my spine and I couldn't talk to anybody. Joyce, going back to you, you were asking what is love to you, and Christy said all those meals and bones, lovely things. For me, love was safety and care because that was the family I grew up in, safety and care. So I believe that if you were in a marriage or like I grew up, everything around you should be safe, everything around you should be care. So when I got this hitting me back saying that I am a point of shame, like a clothing of shame around him, there was a disconnect. And that was where the imbalance started coming in. And he ripped me of everything, the hair, the makeup, the nails. He put a stop and then I started losing myself. And somebody, maybe Christy, or a comment on the platform said something, who are you? Because when you begin to go through abuse, domestic abuse, whatever you may want to call it, you will get to a point where you completely lose yourself. And talking about, again, Joyce, when you ask that what type of healing, the healing is actually a 360-degree healing. If you are going through financial abuse, you would need counseling in that support that would help you re-engineer, if I could use that word, to get you back to where you are supposed to be. Christy, are you with me?
I am. I'm with you. Yes, I'm with you. Yes.
Okay. The second statement that I heard came from the mother-in-law who said they weren't interested in a male puppetry. And that was me. I didn't understand it. So I had to do a little, and then I realized that, oh, the puppetry, if it is male, it doesn't bear fruit. Okay, so everything was all about me not being able to get pregnant despite all medical tests that said I was all right. Now, you're not going to blame him. I don't want the house feeling, oh, poor Laura, and he must be terrible. No, I'm not going to say that. Let me go back to where Joyce said, you started from, the red flags. You see, sometimes the red flags are not physical. The red flags are not physical, and this is where I get to talk about the human mind, our mind. We have the conscious mind and we have the subconscious mind. We grew up nursery school teaching us about touch, feel, smell, taste, those 6 things. And we feel that everything about life evolves around the 6 conscious things. No, they don't. Because the guys will come and you will not be able, somebody said, true, the red flags may be so subtle. Yes.
True.
So he may not be an alcoholic. He may not be a physically abusive person. But look, let's move away from the conscious mind to the subconscious mind. And that is where that still small voice. And when you're talking about the subconscious mind, you're talking about your intuition, perception, your memory, your reasoning, imagination, and your will. These things are subconscious. And then your mind will begin to tell you, you would have this unsettlement in your mind to say that there is something very, very wrong.
Wrong, yes.
Wrong.
Yes, that's
There's
true.
something very, and at that point, look, at that point, when you begin to feel the jitter, okay, that something is really, really wrong with this relationship, hoping that you haven't gotten into that relationship, the problem may not actually be the other person. The problem may be you. but then it is enough, like a red flag telling you, back off,
Don't
back
go,
off,
don't
honey,
go.
don't
Yes.
go in there. But we all end up finding ourselves in there. Do you see what I'm saying? Concerning the
Yes.
counseling, one thing I would say, if with this, background, I would say that, look, you have safety houses in terms of the kind of support you can seek. There are times when you have to get involved with online counseling. And there are times, honestly speaking, when you have to get into what you call it now, like domestic violence hotline. But the first thing is you being true to yourself. You stepping out from that non-admittance phase.
Yes.
Stepping out of why didn't I want to, I was crying out where I was within those 3 years. I'm talking about 1999 to 2000. Somebody said something about, do we have safe houses in all states now?
No.
Okay, that's a question we'll come back to. And I think DVALI should have a safe house, like a refuge home.
Yes.
That's another thing that we're going to talk about. All right?
Yes.
Within these 3 years, remember that in 2002, when my marriage ended, there was divorce then was a taboo. Right now, it's beginning to look like shades of makeup and that can, it's common out there. But it was so embarrassing for me. And what made me stay on in there within those 3 years was embarrassment and shame. Shame that I thought I was going to bring to my family. But at the end of the day, my family did not blame me. All through these 19 years, and I dare put it on the table. If you're out there and you're going through domestic violence, subtle or not subtle, all shades and forms, please accept it to yourself, admit it, and speak out to somebody. It's not going to take 1 week for you to heal. It's going to take years. Thank God. Yes, thank God for supportive family. Yeah. Invest in your siblings. Invest in your family. You can never tell where they're going to help you. I said something. 19 years that I have been here. And particularly my sister in who is a psychotherapist in Philadelphia, and her husband, they kept talking to me. That was how they started rebuilding the person of Laura, because I had got to a point where I lost myself. I got to a point where, honestly speaking, I thought I was running mad. 19 years ago, I thought I was depressed. I thought I was mad. Look, I had a good job at British American Tobacco Company, okay? Managing 3 top brands. And I would get to the office and I would just sit like this. Staring at my desktop, not understanding anything. Until one lady looked at me and called me to the bathroom and said, Laura, is something wrong? And she narrated what happened to her in her first marriage. And she said she ended up in a sick home, in a psychotherapy, in a psychiatrist ward. And she had to go through treatment. And then she said she saw signs that I was losing my mind. Without thinking, I got to the office one day, I resigned, I packed my things and I left the country. I couldn't just handle it anymore. But again, I say thank God for the support system, my siblings and my parents. So this is the word I pick out to you. You're talking about the kind of help that we should get, Joyce. First, I hope you have a supportive family out there. If you don't, please, there is DVALI and there are different other platforms.
Different others, yes.
Where you can seek help. Let me tell you something to Christy and to the remaining over 50 women on this platform. If you die, that is the end of the story.
Yes.
If you go cuckoos, you are gone. Look, it is until you rediscover yourself, you stand up, you begin to make meaning of the true person that you are. He will not come back. And don't even live your life because you're trying to prove a point.
Yes.
It took 5 years. It took 5 years for him to come back to me. And of course, I wasn't going to go back there. And his first statement is, oh, I see you're better off than I left you.
Mm-hmm.
So the question is this, Christy, to you, you are seeking help. Please continue to seek help, all forms, and don't think you've had enough of the help, because honestly speaking, it is a long haul. And continue to make something and someone out of Christy Adelako. That's who you are. Make sure you find yourself. Make sure you continue, not because you're trying to prove a point to any other person there, but because you need to prove a point to yourself.
Yes.
It starts from within. Yeah, it starts from health.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Joyce.
Thank you.
Thank you, Laura.
Welcome.
That was
Thank you.
awesome. Now,
Thank you.
the one thing I would thank you, Laura. You covered so many things, which I'll come back to if we have some time. But you mentioned something, Christian. I've seen some comments in the box about your children.
Okay.
Your children were.
Okay.
The judge said he could have custody of the
Joint
Custody.
custody.
Yes, joint custody.
I want Yetunde to come in. Yetunde is our legal person, a guest advisor for today.
Okay.
Yetunde, are you there? Yetunde, are you there? Okay, she's not answering, because I would have loved.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
She is answering.
Yes.
Oh, okay, good. I had put on the earphones. I think putting on the earphones had switched off the microphone.
Okay.
Okay, all right. So, do you want me to directly answer that particular question, or do you want me to give you some little background from what I have been hearing?
That's fine.
Which one do you want me to do?
Either or. Maybe the background of what you've been hearing, because that will summarize some of the questions that have been.
All right.
Yes.
So perhaps I thank you to all the speakers. I salute your courage. It's wonderful to see women finally come up and start talking, because this would be a means of helping others. I want to start with a definition of domestic violence. I think defining domestic violence will help perhaps a lot of us, especially those who are still going through it, to understand. Now, to put it in layman's language, let me forget the legalese, because not all of us are lawyers. Domestic violence is not just the physical abuse. Domestic violence is economical. An example of an economical would be a forced financial dependency, denying you your inheritance, stopping you from having a job, meaning that you have to depend on that person for everything that you need. Domestic violence can be emotional, verbal, psychological abuse. Verbal insults, degrading and disrespecting words that they can be altered to you, ridiculing you, calling you names, repeatedly threatening to cause you emotional pain. Then, from what I've also heard, to also let you know, it's also obsessive possession, invasion of your privacy, your liberty, the right to go anywhere. He wants to know where you are going. He's looking through your phones. He's asking you where you went today. Under the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, those are rights that every citizen of this country has. And because you are married to him, does not mean that you have ceded those rights to him. Forced isolation from your family and friends. Your friends cannot come here. Your friends are not allowed. Your family can no longer come. You can no longer go and see your family. Stalking, physical abuse, incest, indecent exposure, all of those come under the definition of domestic violence. Domestic violence as defined under our VAP law in Nigeria is so wide now. It actually even includes rape. That's how beautiful the VAP law is now. So it means that if you're going through any one of this and you have been thinking, oh, he hasn't hit me, he hasn't stabbed me, therefore it's not domestic violence. You are wrong. Telling you are stupid. is domestic violence.
Yes.
Telling you can't have a job is domestic, even if it's couched in the nicest possible way. Now you know that it would be better for you to stay at home and take care of these children. It's domestic violence. Because you have a right to have a job and earn money of your own. Now, this is your family property that they gave you. Why don't we both use it together to do it is domestic violence? You have the right to decide what to do with your inheritance. All of that is domestic violence. So I wanted us to understand what domestic violence is and what it means.
Very, very important.
From there, we can then start to think about what we have gone through and what it means to us as a person. You are able to now key into it and decide, okay, is what I have been going through domestic violence or not? Now, to go back to your question about the children, am I right?
Correct.
Yes.
And about access and custody. Now, under our child's right law, and let me state that your rights as a family, as a person, when it comes to domestic violence, are protected by several laws. In Abuja, it will be the VAP law, that's the federal law. In Lagos State, it will be the domestic violence law. That's if you live in Lagos State, but I want to understand that not all of us live in Lagos State.
Correct.
On the platform.
Yes.
In Lagos State, it will be the domestic violence law. Now, the VAP law is the federal law, which is applicable only in Abuja, right? But that VAP law has been domesticated by at least 18 states of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. And each of those states now has a domestic violence law. In fact, the domestic violence law of Lagos State precedes the VAP law. It is after Lagos State promulgated their own domestic violence law that the federal government now did theirs. So, in fact, the VAP law is actually wider than Lagos State domestic violence law, but Lagos State is working on it.
Okay.
So your rights are protected under the domestic violence law, whether federal or your state. Your rights are also protected under the criminal law. Can you hear me?
Yes. Yes, we can.
Hello?
Clearly.
Okay.
Yes,
Your
yes.
rights are protected under the criminal law. Your rights are also protected under the rights of your children, under the child's right law. Those are all laws that are applicable when it comes to
my cup of
violence.
tea upstairs.
Am I getting through?
Yes, yes, you are.
Okay. So now, when it comes to custody and access, usually such cases will be taken either to the High Court or the Magistrate Court, depending on what you have applied for. Now, when you have children, the rights of your children will take precedence in the mind of any court. You want to make sure that the child is well protected. All right? Now, each individual situation will determine what the magistrate or the court will do. The courts can decide to give the woman custody and insist that the husband will give you money for maintenance, right? To pay their school fees and all of that. Especially if the woman has applied for a protection order, which is essentially you also have the right to apply for. I'm sure if anybody else comes up with a question, I can quickly go into that, but just let me restrict myself to what I was asked now. Now, the court will decide if it is best for the man to have custody. In your case, Christy, who was talking earlier, the court could see that you physically and mentally you are not in the right state to take care of the children. Perhaps that is why the court decided that he should have custody of the children. It's unusual, but the court must have seen something. But you will also have a right later, when you are feeling better, to approach the court and ask.
Stop you for a moment. So yes. I wanted to recap. So it's unusual because we get a lot of calls from women who are so scared that the man can take the children. So
no.
Yes.
No.
Okay.
It was not, no.
Sorry, excuse me, can I just say something?
Yes.
Like, I remember the judge added that clause that by the time I'm better health-wise, I'm more financially stable, I can come back for the
Yes,
children.
good. That's it.
Yes, she
The
added
judge will
that.
decide, yes, that you can come back and ask for custody of the children. In fact,
Yes,
what you
yes.
have now, the children come to you during the weekend, every weekend, right?
Yes,
Am I
every
right?
weekend and then
So
holidays.
what you have
Yes.
now is shared custody. There are some
Yes.
cases where it will be custody and access. Access is different. Access, you are allowed to see them, but they don't actually come to your house and stay with you. But they come to your house and stay with you every weekend. So what you have now is shared
Yes.
custody. Yeah. And that's a beautiful situation, and I applaud the judge. Because
No,
in
she
some
was
cases,
wonderful. Yes.
yes, in some
She
cases
was
when
a
it's a
great
man,
judge.
you just say, okay, that you can access, you can go and see the children, or he can bring them to you in a neutral place. That's access. That's different. But what you have now is shared custody. And I also applaud the fact that you have reached a healing point where you are able to tell the children that you do not hate their father. That's beautiful.
Yes.
It's a level of healing that allows you to realize that the children also need their father.
Yes.
And I applaud you
Yes.
for that.
Thank you.
There are situations where, under the protection order, the court will decide that even seeing their father will be dangerous and detrimental to the children. Where it has come up to the point where the thing has so broken down, and the man is in such a situation that the children cannot even relate to him. I'm glad that it is a situation where both of you can still parent the children together.
Yes.
But honestly, that is still the best situation for the children.
Yes.
The children will begin to understand that it's an unfortunate situation, but it is a situation where at least their father can still, and they can still have respect for their father. Let me put it that way.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, and both of you can still parent. Also, the children will be able to know, especially your girls, will be able to know that not all men are bad. Because if it were a situation where they could not see their father, that will always be ingrained in their mind, that men are bad.
Correct.
Yes.
Let's be honest with ourselves.
Yes.
So,
True.
and it will affect and color their relationship in future.
Yes.
So I'm glad that it's a situation where both of you can still parent it. I hope I've answered your question.
You have. There's a question
Yep.
here. There's one question that is, are these laws binding in customary court marriages or Islamic marriages? Is the question.
Yes. In fact, if you have approached the customary court for if it's a customary marriage and you're going to the customary court for a divorce, after the divorce or separation in the customary court will refer you to the magistrate court for maintenance, custody, and access, because the customary court does not have the power to decide maintenance, custody, and access for the children. That will start from the magistrate court.
Okay.
So all those laws are binding whatever kind of marriage you have, whether it is customary or whatever. Now, the only situation we have is when you are not married, where it's just a relationship. Then you will have to straight away approach the magistrate court asking for access or custody of your children. You are covered by that, right?
Okay.
Wow, thank you very much. That was very informative. I think we'll take questions now. I know I saw a question, Christy, that asked, somebody asked, I think it was Tiwa, if you were more financially stable, would you have stayed that long? And please, if anybody has any questions for either the counselor, myself, or Christy, or the lawyer, please, you can ask them now, or you can put them in the chat and we'll read them out. So the question I saw was, Christy, would you have stayed that long if you were financially stable?
I think I would have, because, you know, I was coming from a background whereby my parents were separated, and I didn't want it to be like now become a pattern, you know. And when he was getting married to me, he was telling me, oh, so many people advised him not to get married. And to me, that because people from my side of the country, they don't like to stay in marriages and all that. So I was desperate to prove a point that my marriage was going to work. And I didn't want to, you know, let it now become a pattern. My parents separated, the same thing is happening to me. So I may have, you know, what the deal breaker for me, because when I left the marriage, I didn't still have money. I didn't have anything. The deal breaker for me was discovering his narcissistic traits. This person is narcissistic.
Yeah.
Even if I had all the millions in the world, it will not still change anything. So that knowledge was what just, you know, like, I need to just walk away. If not, I'll die here trying. So I think if I was still financially buoyant and was ignorant of this narcissistic part of him, I would have still remained there and trying.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Do we have any more questions? You can raise your hand or you can type them in the chat box.
I think I saw some questions too. Somebody was asking that why did George give custody to an abusive father? And I tell people, he's not a bad father. He was a terrible husband, but he's not a bad father.
Yeah.
In his own capacity, he wasn't abusive towards the children. He wasn't the children have a good relationship with their father, very good relationship. And they have a very good relationship with me too. So concerning the children, he wasn't bad to them.
Yeah.
Even in terms of when he had to do things like financially, the children came before me. He met their needs, everything relating to them. I was always at the bottom of the ladder, you know, so. And so far, in the last 5 years, I would say he has been doing well.
Yeah.
He takes care of them well.
Yeah.
You know. So in that aspect, and I think the judge saw all that because the children were brought in and they were asked questions. So she felt, you know, it was safe enough for them to stay with him.
And I think I should also reiterate what Laura said. You know, I don't hate my ex. You know, it's not about hating these people. You know,
yes,
it's the action that they did with that. You know, they have to deal with their own issues. Is what I've learned over the years.
Issues, yes.
So they're not necessarily horrible people, and it's not for me.
Yes.
We're not here to bash men. In fact, there are men here.
Yes.
You know, so it's admirable that and there are good men out there. Let's not forget that. But the action towards us is what we're talking about here. I see some more questions.
Exactly.
Okay, Nike has her hand up. Hi there.
Hi, good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
And thank you Christy, for sharing. Every time I join DVALI's platform for these sessions, it opens my eyes and opens my mind to a lot of things that, you know, people are going through. My question this time is also to the counselor, actually. And what I want to ask is, how can you help a woman in this sort of situation to know that it's time to leave? Because what I keep hearing, and I hear a lot of that all the time, is that it's only when the woman is ready to leave. So you stayed there for, I think you said 13 years before you left, and you could have left at different times. But how, because I just feel that somebody had said, I think it was the lady counselor who said she was in her marriage for just 3 years and she left because of, you know, the situation. I'm just wondering how can you help someone to say, you know, to get that courage? Because I know it's hard with everything you do. It's when you as a person decide and say, you know what, I've had enough, I'm going. But how do you help someone to know that, look, you know, within this 1 year, the people outside can see it and they know it's not going to get better, and give that person the courage to be able to say, you know what, I've had enough and I'm going to leave this. Thank you.
Thank you, Nikki.
Thank you. I'm not sure if the question was directed at me or at Christy, because at a point she mentioned.
Laura, it's for you.
Okay, all right, thank you. It's a tough thing. One thing that we do is we do not tell victims, men or women, to leave their partners, either in a relationship or marriage or whatever you want to call it.
You have to make.
What we help them do is to come to terms with their internal person.
Yes,
You see, look, you tell children what to do. We enable adults come to terms with their conscious, their subconscious mind. There is no point you staying in harm's way Harm can be caused to you financially, psychologically, culturally, spiritually. You know these things. When you're not feeling well, you know how you feel. Listen, when you get the symptoms, you're getting like some feverish, you know how you feel. The victim, and it is all in the process of recovery. The thing I would advise is, please let this person seek counseling. Counseling will take a while. And what counseling like like DVALI does is to move you through that trajectory of your inner person. You must drive towards finding stability in your inner person. There have been mistakes where people would look at the indicators externally and advise a person to leave a matrimonial. You're not helping in that state. We help people to come to terms. And the word I keep, hammering onto is come to terms with your inner person. And it goes through counseling, psychotherapy, psychological treatment. There are different assessment tools, methods through which this can be done. I mean, because of time and certain constraint, we will not be able to talk about those methods on this platform. But what I would say is, please let that individual seek counseling. And the essence of that counseling is to move that person to finding your inner person, come to terms, come to peace with your inner man. I hope that helps.
I'm sure it did.
Can I just add to what she said, based on my own experience? For me, apart from me discovering that, like what Laura said, that you will know that something is wrong. I knew there was something wrong. This is not the norm. So in my search for discovering what was wrong, I came across that word, narcissism, and I began to search, and I knew that there was, so what people that I come across that are in such situations, like now I'm in 2 support groups. And what we do in those 2 support groups is, there are some people that are still in the marriage. We add them to the group. So nobody tells you. So, but at the end of the day, you will discover these things by yourself. And like Laura said, you have to come to terms with your inner you. Do you know you? Who are you? And when you know who you are, you will now know what is good for you and what is not good for you. I got to the point that when I realized, okay, this is what narcissism is, I said, if I'm going to live with this guy, I'm going to be in a war mode every time, because you don't know what will cause the quarrel, you don't know what will cause the fight. And I said, am I ready to live this way? And I said, no. So you will ask yourself some questions, but it takes a process. But if the person is exposed to like hearing and seeing things relating to that, it would help that person, to be able to ask his or herself those questions and finally come to that point whereby, okay, this is not what I want to walk away, because you can't really tell people to leave if they don't want to.
Yeah, you're so right. And those are the comments. Mujukwe has said, should we really encourage people to leave? It should be always ultimately be their decision. Dio has said counseling should be encouraged. As you said, not everyone believes it works, unfortunately. It's not in anyone's place to tell the victim to move or leave. He or she has the understanding, and they will want to own up to their own decision. I think we all agree that, a cry for help is the best thing when the victim comes out themselves. And, I think the moral of the story is, you waited 13 years, Christy. I waited 17 years. Laura waited 2 years or 3 years. But about 3 years. The bottom line is, you don't have to wait that long. You will know in your spirit, when you're so miserable, when and I think I saw one of the comments that said, you have to be able to know what control, because I felt when he was controlling me, I felt that it was love.
Love,
yes. So much. That's why he's so concerned with what I'm wearing, with who I speak. In fact, I felt so, I thought, wow, he must really love me. But after a while, it became stifling. Yes. I couldn't breathe. I lost myself, just like has been said, So, yeah.
Joyce, I mean, I thank you for the responses, and I totally agree with them. But the reason I asked that question is also looking at the side where people die in this kind of situation. So I remember the young lady in Abuja who stabbed her husband, who, you know, they were going through these problems. I mean, I can't remember who was the abuser, whether the husband or the wife.
Yeah.
But then she had then left.
Correct.
To go to her parents. And then her mom had sent her back, which is, you know, cultural, where they say, you know, oh, well, you can't leave, you can't come back.
And then,
when you're married and all that.
Yeah.
And then she had gone back, and that same night, she had stabbed her husband to death. And then you have other incidences where people have, you know, killed their spouses based on, you know, whatever these, you know, domestic violence issues are, which is why I asked that question, that at what stage, yes, for people who've stayed longer in it, you know, I would say maybe people are lucky that the violent person, it just didn't get to the stage where they were killed, or people almost got killed, you know, which is why I asked that question, that at what stage, I understand, you can't tell people to leave a situation, but at what point do you then say, look, looking at it and all these pointers, it seems that it might be better for you if you leave? Because for me, I also feel that from what the counselor had said, it's that same thing of, well, yeah, it's a problem, you know, it's a problem. We're going to tell you it's a problem, but you need to make that decision to leave. And I'm thinking, yes, there are people who are strong enough to go through it, then come out of it. But then there are those people who just stay in there for, you know, whatever reasons. And you can see that this guy is going to kill this person. You can just see it. There's some of the abusers who are just that bad. You know, it's about nobody's going to have you if I can't have you, or it's whatever the mental issues or whatever they're dealing with. That is why I asked that question, actually.
And it's a very valid question, Nike. And unfortunately, I know somebody who, every time they call, I just get so scared that it's over, but they cannot leave the situation. They just will not leave. And what can you do? Even if you send them,
exactly,
there's not much you can do.
There's nothing you can do.
Pray that it doesn't end in violence. And
exactly, just pray.
We could have all easily been statistics here. We're not talking about all the women who are in Arrow today or in a mental hospital because they never recovered mentally from abuse.
I'm sorry, hello?
Yes, yes.
May I come in?
Please do.
Yes, ma'am.
This is the lawyer.
Okay.
We have a policy. Now, we usually advise women, we say, leave to live. That is leave, L-E-A-V-E, to live, L-I-V-E. I agree with you that you can't force anyone to leave the situation. But Lagos State has a reporter's policy. That is, if you find a situation where there is very horrible domestic violence going on or child abuse, the people around are honor bound, not only now by honor, but also by law, to report. Now, we must not forget that there are situations where the women they don't have a means to go for counseling.
Yes.
Because the man has made it such that they can't leave their home. They don't have a phone. They can't go out. We've had situations where the husband will leave to go to work and will lock the woman and her children in the house. So even going for counseling is not possible. So in such a situation where a report is made, what we usually do is to send in welfare officers to go and see what is going on in order to help the woman. Or those who are around may call the Lagos State emergency line 112 and report to the police that this is going on and we think that this person needs help. The job of the police is to report to any of the Lagos State agencies that can then go in and go and see and then talk to the woman, either invite her to the office or go there themselves. It is just to go talk and advise. You still cannot force her to leave, but your job is to try and advise her and see if psycho or economical support will help her to be able to make that final decision to leave. Because we've had so many situations where, in fact, the opposite of what you were talking in Abuja happened, where it was the woman herself that was stabbed to death. And I'm sure all of you would have heard of the Aruwulu case, the guy that stabbed his wife 60-something times. She too had left, and it was her parents that told her to come back. We want to avoid that situation. So, though we cannot force her to leave, we will always advise her that it is better to leave that situation so that you will be alive. We're not saying break up the marriage. We're saying leave there temporarily. Let us see whether we can call both of you together and try and solve the situation. That gives you the ability to now sit down, assess, and decide whether this is a relationship I want to continue or this is a relationship I want to pull out of. We are thinking not only of you, but we are thinking of the children that may be involved, if there are any children. It is our job as a state to protect you. We can no longer protect you if you are dead. So it's important to us to give you that ability to be able to pack up and leave, because we know that the reason why a lot of women stay is because they are thinking of financial, they are thinking of tradition, they are thinking of religion. What people say. So if we are able to help you and advise you, and you still decide to stay, then it is out of our hands. But we have done our job by advising you. In fact, we always tell women, in a little bag, put your certificates, your children's birth certificates, your children's passports, if you have one. As soon as he's out of the house, if you have a baby, tie him on the back. Take the ones with you and leave with just what is important.
Because we're talking about life and death.
Yes. Until we can then sit down and call partners and tell the man, okay, what you are doing is a criminal offense. Because it is now a criminal offense, not only in Nigeria, but in Lagos State.
Wow. Thank you very much. And that brings us to the end. We've actually run over our time schedule. It's supposed to be an hour and a half. I would like to thank everyone who attended. I'd like to thank Christy. Thank you for coming and sharing your experience. It's been very uplifting. Thank you, Laura, for the awesome advice you've given, and also to Yetunde, amazing. And thank you to each and every one of you who have taken the time out to come today and to support DVALI. The long-time goal of DVALI is to have a refuge for such women so that we can house them, and we'll be promoting that very soon from this as well. And I just want to say thank you to every one of you from the bottom of my heart. Thank you for supporting DVALI in everything you do. And I wish everybody well.
Thank you very much.
All right then, thank you. Stay safe, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Kemi, how do I stop recording? Kemi, are you there?